It truly is a pleasure to be back with you again here in Munich. I'm not sure exactly how many times I've been here, but right from the very beginning when the concept of the RCE was being built, I happened to have the good fortune of being here. What you can't very well see it, but I thought that what I would do is, since the other people spoke in German but had their slides up in English, that what I would do is speak in English and put the slides up in German. So. First of all, let me say thank you to each and every one of you who are involved with the RCE. These are, and on behalf of the United Nations University, whose idea it was, when the decade was coming forward, the idea that came forward from the rector of the United Nations University was to see what we could learn from working at the other end of the scale. So much of what is done in regards to sustainable development around the world is nations signing treaties or refusing to sign treaties or whatever. And the idea was perhaps we could go to the other end of the scale and see what communities could do to build sustainable development within their own capability. And what we were really interested in was what would be the contribution of education, public awareness, training programs in the private and public sector. What if we were to find a way of bringing together the people who actually know what are the sustainability issues there, the social, environmental, and economic issues facing that community now and what's coming. And if we could take that reality and somehow infuse it into our school systems, our corporate training systems, into trying to create a more knowledgeable and literate general public, then if we could learn from that how to make that work, and if it was positive, then we could take and transplant that around the world. It was a simple idea, and it's caught on. They're now we didn't begin till 2005, and now there are 75 cities or regions around the world, and about 20 more are coming online. So the learning as to what works and what doesn't, because sometimes it doesn't work. A few of the RCEs were not able to make the step from coming together and saying, yes, we will, to actually not being able to pull it off. They couldn't figure what is it that we do. We're learning. This is a real struggle because none of the RCEs really had any seed money. None of them had finances. So some of them came together in order thinking, oh, well, there will be money, and came to the table. And what they've learned is no, it takes the creativity of the people to put together projects that sometimes attract the money. What's so nice about coming here, I think, is each of the RCEs around the world has its own personality. But when I come here to Munich, there are several things. First of all, an awful lot happens here. It was slow in getting started, but one of the other things that was so unique is that this was one of the few RCEs that was able to attract the private sector. They are the hardest to come, because if they come to a meeting, they're thinking, who can I bill this to? The meter is always running within their mind as it is. And so to come to a gathering and sit and talk it just isn't in their DNA to do that. They want to come, make a decision, and go. But the big thing about sustainable development is that we really don't have an answer. It's about learning our way forward. It's a slow process. It's like the ancient Greek definition of the future was moving backwards into the future, where you don't know what really is there, and trying to build on the past as you go through. So it's a very different concept. The other thing, though, is that I've found with the Munich RCE is that you've been extremely helpful in starting other RCEs. I was with Arena about a month and a half ago, trying to get one going in London, England. And so I happened to be able, I was moving through and I was there in the same way as I'm here tonight, because I'm actually teaching in Salzburg for 3 weeks at the Salzburg seminar. And so it was easy to jump the train, come over and be with you and head on back. So the training, the support for others, but also there is this constant thinking of the economy, of nurturing the private sector, and you're the only one of the 75 RCEs is doing it. And so to come and to talk to you and try and infuse a bit of economics into it is a pleasure. Now, I'm not an economist, but I do hang out at times with people. I was, the last week, I was with the president of the Club of Rome, and he was sharing with me and preparing for coming over the presentation that he made to the G8 about a month ago. He was talking about, it's about 51 million people who have been made or put out of employment by the current economic crisis. 51 million around the world. The proposal to address climate change is pretty well been rejected because it will cost 160 billion. We've just come up with 4 trillion to bail out banks and in financial institutions that we figure we can't let collapse. 4 trillion, but we can't, we don't know where we'll come up with 160 billion. So the idea of trying to infuse economics into the understanding, that public understanding, public awareness and training programs that we have within the RCEs is extremely important. You see, to date, when we think of sustainable development, most people around the world immediately think of environment. That's sort of the first thing that comes to mind. It's everywhere. And then after environment, there's social. And then after social, economics. But we talk about it, but we don't know what to do about it. We don't know what to teach about it. Right? It's sort of an afterthought. Because in our minds, we continue to separate these things into 3 separate bits. Because, I suppose, we're educated in disciplines. We have labels for social, environmental, and economic. We work in different sectors, whether we're academics or work in the private sector or work in a not-for-profit. We have a hard time looking at it. And so, and even from the general public and from media, we receive information in these different components. But what I wanted to do was to show you, this is, I'll just describe it. This is Lake Chad, one of the 4 or 5 really big lakes in Africa. And of course, right beside it, over in here, is Darfur. This is Chad and Cameroon, Nigeria, and this is in 1972. You can see the size of the lake. All the point that I'm going to make is that where it says Chad up in there, up that whole top, that's nomadic people. They are African Muslim.